That evening, the streets were bathed in a soft golden glow of sunset. Luke drove with quiet excitement, his heart racing at the thought of tonight. It was their 5th anniversary, a milestone he had carefully planned to celebrate with Chloe. He had prepared a small but meaningful dinner, along with a gift he believed she would cherish. But fate had other plans. As he turned onto a busy street, a car suddenly shot out from a side alley. Luke swerved hard, lost control, and crashed to the ground. A sharp, searing pain spread through his leg. He instantly knew his shin bone was broken. Struggling to remain conscious, Luke reached for his phone. Only one name came to mind: Chloe. With trembling fingers, he dialed her number, hoping to hear panic, worry, or at least a trace of concern in her voice. Instead, what greeted him was a cold, indifferent reply: "I'm busy right now. We'll talk later." Before he could explain, the call disconnected. Lying helpless on the pavement as strangers rushed by, Luke forced a bitter smile. How could someone he had loved and prioritized for 5 years sound so distant at the very moment he needed her most? By the time he was admitted to the hospital, his chest felt heavier than his injured leg. His phone buzzed repeatedly, not with messages of comfort from Chloe, but with photos flashing across social media. There she was, glowing at Ethan's birthday party, raising a glass with laughter in her eyes. Ethan, her childhood friend, stood beside her, looking far too comfortable by her side. Luke stared at the screen in silence, his heart pierced with a pain sharper than the fracture in his bone. For 5 years, he had believed that love could withstand anything, that Chloe would always be there when it truly mattered. Yet tonight, when he was broken and vulnerable, she had chosen someone else's celebration over his suffering. Alone in the sterile white hospital room, Luke listened to the rain tapping against the window pane. The sound was steady, almost cruel in its indifference, echoing Chloe's words. He realized that this night was not just about a broken leg. It was the beginning of a deeper fracture, the kind that split not bone, but trust and love. And perhaps it was already beyond repair. A week later, Luke's leg was still bound in a cast, but he tried to keep his promise to Chloe. Despite the dull ache that throbbed with every step, he bought tickets to the movie she had been waiting to see for months. He told himself that maybe, just maybe, this night could mend what was starting to break between them. It was their anniversary after all. 5 years of memories couldn't simply vanish. At first, Chloe smiled when he handed her the tickets, but there was a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. She sat beside him in the theater, scrolling on her phone even as the lights dimmed. Luke brushed it off, convincing himself she was just distracted. Yet halfway through the film, her phone vibrated insistently. She glanced at the screen, and her expression changed, panic mixed with guilt. "It's Ethan," she whispered, already rising from her seat. "He needs me. He's not doing well." Luke felt his chest tighten. "Chloe, it's our anniversary. Can't it wait until the movie ends?" His voice was low, almost pleading. But Chloe shook her head, her tone firm. "You don't understand. He's struggling. I have to be there." Without waiting for his reply, she hurried down the aisle, leaving him alone in the flickering glow of the screen. The rest of the film played on, but Luke didn't hear a word of it. He sat frozen, staring at the empty seat beside him. The realization pressed down on him like a weight he could no longer carry. Chloe's priorities were clear. For 5 years, he had fought for their love, but he was the only one still holding on. When the credits rolled, Luke walked out into the cool night air. Chloe was nowhere in sight. She was with Ethan. His phone buzzed again, this time with a picture posted online, Chloe tending to a small cut on Ethan's hand, her expression full of tenderness. The contrast was cruel. Just days ago, Luke had been lying in a hospital bed with a fractured leg, and she hadn't shown up. By the time Chloe returned to him outside the theater, Luke had already made his decision. His voice was calm, almost too calm. Chloe, this is the end. 5 years, but tonight showed me everything I needed to know. Her lips parted, but no words came. And with that, Luke turned away, leaving their love behind, broken not by time, but by choices. A week slipped by, though for Luke it felt both unbearably long and strangely brief. He buried himself in work, forcing his thoughts away from Chloe, away from the night that had shattered their 5-year relationship. He told himself he was moving forward, that the chapter was closed. But fate had its own way of reopening wounds. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. Luke stopped by a quiet cafe near the city square, hoping for a brief escape from the monotony of recovery. His crutch rested against the table as he sipped his coffee, staring out the window. That was when he saw them, Chloe and Ethan, walking together down the street. They weren't holding hands, but the closeness between them was unmistakable. Friends trailed behind, laughing, treating the two as though they were already a couple. For a moment, Luke's chest tightened. The sight was surreal, as though his worst fears had been painted right in front of him. But instead of anger, he felt only a calm hollowness. He placed his cup down and stood, intending to leave quietly before they noticed him. Luke. Chloe's voice cut through the air, filled with surprise. She had spotted him. Ethan's smile faltered, and the group fell silent. Luke turned, his expression composed. Chloe. Ethan. He nodded politely, as if greeting distant acquaintances. The tension was heavy. Friends exchanged awkward glances before drifting away, leaving the three of them standing in the middle of the cafe. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, muttering something about needing to take a call, before stepping outside. That left Chloe and Luke face to face. She hesitated, then stepped closer. Luke. I need to say this. I still love you. What happened that night, I wasn't thinking. I panicked. But my feelings for you haven't changed. Her eyes glistened, voice trembling. Luke held her gaze, and for a fleeting second, old memories threatened to weaken his resolve. But he forced himself to remember the hospital bed, the empty seat at the theater, the photo of her smiling at Ethan. His jaw tightened. Chloe, he said softly, love isn't proven by words, it's proven by choices. And you've already made yours. Her tears slipped free. Are you saying, there's no chance? Luke shook his head. No. There isn't. With that, he turned and left the cafe, his steps heavy but resolute. Chloe remained behind, her heart breaking as she realized he meant every word. After their unexpected encounter at the cafe, Luke expected silence. Yet Chloe didn't vanish from his life completely. Instead, she began to appear in small, almost insignificant ways. On his birthday, a short message arrived on his phone. Happy birthday, Luke. I hope you're doing well. During the holidays, she sent him a polite greeting, nothing more. Sometimes, when she saw a career milestone he had achieved, she would send a quick congratulations. They were words without weight, carefully crafted to sound casual. She no longer asked to meet, no longer begged for another chance. And yet, beneath the restraint, Luke sensed something unsaid, regret that lingered like a shadow. For his part, Luke responded politely, but with distance. A simple thank you or same to you. No warmth, no invitation to continue the conversation. He had drawn a clear boundary. Whatever they once were, it no longer existed. Chloe, however, seemed unwilling to let the thread between them snap completely. On Valentine's Day, she sent a picture of the night sky with the message, "Do you still remember the time we spent stargazing on the rooftop?" Luke stared at it for a long while, his chest tightening with memories he wished he could forget. In the end, his reply was curt, I remember. Take care, Chloe. It was strange how quickly habits changed. Where once they shared long phone calls stretching into the night, now their exchanges were reduced to fragments, like strangers pretending to be friends. Chloe tried to disguise her longing in civility, while Luke hid his lingering hurt behind indifference. To the outside world, it looked as though they had transitioned smoothly into friendship, two adults handling a breakup with grace. But Luke knew better. This wasn't friendship, it was survival. It was Chloe's way of holding on without admitting it, and his way of letting go without cruelty. Sometimes, when he saw her name light up his screen, he would pause, wondering if he should ignore it altogether. But then he remembered the years they had shared, and he couldn't bring himself to sever the connection completely. Still, deep inside, Luke understood one thing with absolute clarity: he would never go back. Polite words could soften the edges of their history, but they could not rewrite it. Spring arrived quietly, but with it came a new complication Luke had not anticipated. One evening, as he was leaving the office, his phone rang. It was Chloe. Her voice, though steady, carried an edge of desperation. "Luke, can we talk? It's about my mom." They met at a quiet park nearby. Chloe looked exhausted, her eyes rimmed red as though she hadn't slept in days. After a long silence, she finally said, "My mother's health is getting worse. The doctors aren't optimistic. She doesn't know about our breakup, and I can't bring myself to tell her. She loves you, Luke. She always saw you as family." Luke felt his chest tighten. He remembered her mother's gentle smile, the way she fussed over him like he was her own son. Before he could speak, Chloe continued, "Please. Just for her sake, could you pretend we're still together? At least until she stabilizes. She keeps asking when we'll get married. I don't want her last memories to be filled with disappointment." The request hit Luke harder than he expected. It wasn't that he still loved Chloe, he had convinced himself that part of his life was over, but he couldn't ignore the woman who had shown him nothing but kindness for years. After a long pause, he nodded. "All right. For your mom." That weekend, Luke visited Chloe's family home. Her mother lit up the moment she saw him, embracing him warmly. "Luke, you've lost weight. You must let Chloe take better care of you." Her father chuckled, patting his shoulder as though welcoming a son-in-law. The atmosphere was so familiar it almost hurt, but then came the words Luke dreaded. Over dinner, Chloe's father said with a smile, "We've been thinking, maybe it's time to set a date for the wedding. With your mother's condition, it would mean the world to her to see the two of you married." Luke froze, his fork suspended in midair. He glanced at Chloe, who looked equally startled, her knuckles white as she gripped her glass. Neither of them spoke, and the silence stretched uncomfortably. Luke forced a smile, deflecting gently, "Let's focus on your mother's health first. That's what matters most." But inside, unease churned. He had agreed to pretend for Chloe's mother's sake, but how long could this charade last before it consumed them both? The pretense of being Chloe's boyfriend stretched on longer than Luke had anticipated. Each visit to her family carried the same routine: warm welcomes, her mother's delighted laughter, her father's approving glances. Luke played his part with quiet grace, never once betraying the truth that their love had ended, but there was always one shadow lurking nearby: Ethan. He seemed to appear whenever Luke was around, his presence calculated and disruptive. At family dinners, Ethan would drop by under the guise of checking on Chloe, claiming loneliness or poor health. He wore fragility like armor, sighing about sleepless nights, headaches, and the unbearable weight of his depression. "Chloe," he would say softly, almost pitifully, "I don't think I can get through this week without you." Every time, Chloe's expression faltered, torn between compassion and obligation. She would rise from her seat, hovering near him, speaking in hushed tones as if the rest of the room didn't exist. Her hand would sometimes linger on his shoulder, her voice soothing. It was a gesture Luke had once known well, but unlike before, Luke felt no jealousy. He sat back, observing with a calm detachment that surprised even him. The pain that once consumed him had dulled, replaced by clarity. He could see Ethan's manipulations for what they were, emotional chains designed to keep Chloe tethered. At one particularly strained dinner, Ethan dramatically displayed a bandaged hand. "I cut myself while cooking. It wouldn't stop bleeding. Chloe, you were the only person I thought of." Chloe rushed to fuss over him, dabbing at his hand with a napkin. The table fell silent, all eyes darting between her and Luke. Her father cleared his throat awkwardly, her mother frowned in confusion. Luke, however, only offered a small, polite smile. "It looks like you'll be fine, Ethan. Just be more careful next time." His voice was steady, free of bitterness. Chloe glanced at him quickly, searching for anger or resentment, but there was none. And that was what unsettled her most. Luke had once fought for her attention, clung to every scrap of affection. Now he seemed detached, as though Ethan's presence no longer mattered. In truth, it didn't. Because Luke finally understood, love that had to compete with constant interference wasn't love worth saving. The strain had been building for weeks, stretching taut like a string ready to snap. Luke played his part for Chloe's family with patience, but every time Ethan intruded, the weight grew heavier. Chloe would rush to Ethan's side, soothe his every complaint, while Luke sat quietly, enduring the charade. Yet inside, he knew it couldn't continue forever. One evening, after another dinner cut short by Ethan's sudden illness, Luke finally asked Chloe to walk with him. They strolled along the quiet street outside her parents' home, the air cool and heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine. Chloe wrapped her arms around herself, sensing what was coming. "Chloe," Luke began, his tone calm but unyielding, "I need to say this once and for all. I can't keep living in this cycle, me, you, and Ethan. It's not love. It's not even life. It's a cage." She flinched, her eyes wide. "Luke, please. Ethan depends on me. He's fragile." Luke stopped walking, turning to face her directly. "And what about us? What about me? For years, I thought if I loved you enough, you'd choose me fully. But every time he calls, you run to him. Every time he hurts, you abandon me to heal him. Chloe, love isn't about dividing yourself between two people. It's about choosing one. And you've already chosen, maybe without even realizing it." Her lips trembled. "No, I haven't. I still love you. I can't leave Ethan behind." The words struck him like a final nail in the coffin. Luke exhaled slowly, his decision crystallizing with painful clarity. "Then that's your answer? Because I won't live my life competing with another man for your attention. I won't keep pretending this is love." Tears welled in Chloe's eyes, spilling freely down her cheeks. "Are you saying this is really the end?" Luke's voice softened, but it carried an edge of finality. "It ended the moment you walked out of that theater, Chloe. I just hadn't accepted it until now." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant hum of traffic. Finally, Luke turned and walked away, each step steady, resolute. Behind him, Chloe stood frozen, crying quietly into the night, grasping at a love that had already slipped beyond her reach. Luke sat alone in his apartment, the soft glow of the desk lamp illuminating a stack of documents. For the first time in years, he felt a strange sense of clarity. His decision was final, there would be no turning back. Chloe's tearful pleas from their last conversation still echoed in his mind, but he had already given her his answer. No doubt he had loved her deeply once, enough to endure her indifference, her wavering priorities, and her divided loyalties. But love that demanded constant sacrifice without reciprocity was not love anymore, it was a slow erosion of the self. Luke realized he could no longer stand in the shadows of Ethan's presence, waiting for Chloe to choose him when she should have chosen him long ago. Instead of bitterness, however, there was calm. He had poured himself into his work over the last few weeks, regaining momentum in his career. Opportunities began to open up, projects he had always dreamed of, travel offers, and partnerships that demanded his full attention. For the first time, his path felt like it belonged entirely to him, untouched by the turbulence of broken promises. Chloe, on the other hand, spiraled into regret. Nights stretched into dawns where she found herself staring at old photographs, replaying memories of their 5 years together. She had thought Ethan's attention and the thrill of new excitement would fill her heart, but instead it left her empty. Ethan remained careless, distant, never offering the stability Luke had once given her. And when she reached out, Luke only responded with polite distance, his tone formal, never cold but never inviting. Their final meeting was short. Chloe appeared at the cafe where they had shared countless mornings, her eyes red but determined. She asked one last time, voice trembling, "Is there really no chance for us?" Luke met her gaze steadily. "Chloe, we had our time. But I can't go back. Not anymore. I need to live my life, and you need to find yours. Holding on to what's broken will only hurt us both." She nodded, though tears betrayed her. As she walked away, Luke felt a weight lift from his chest. He wasn't heartless, he was free. And freedom, he realized, was the beginning of a life he truly deserved.